Conservatives have a lot of opinions, but quite often they're spoken in a dry way, almost like a mathematics professor. I think conservatives like to argue, I guess would be called left brain, like an engineer or an accountant. And too few people who care about freedom and privacy and smaller government think about things artistically, think about things in the manner of Hollywood, think about emotion. We eschew that. We don't have a lot of comedians on our side of things. And so when we find an artist or an author or a songwriter or a filmmaker who promotes an agenda of freedom, well, my God, that is the time to lean in and help and watch and learn and spread the word, because we are outgunned in that side of things. And I am talking about a friend of the show. He's my friend too. Aaron Gunn is his name. He's an outstanding documentary filmmaker, and he has done it again with a hit, unfortunately, on a very sensitive subject. The title of his new documentary is Canada is Dying, and it's an homage to Vancouver is Dying, a spectacular viral hit he did a few months back when Vancouver had its turning point municipal election. And incredibly, they threw out the hardline socialist NDP MP who was the mayor. And I am hoping in my heart of hearts that Canada is Dying will also serve to wake up Canadians coast to coast to what is happening to this country. What a pleasure to be joined now via Zoom by the filmmaker himself, Aaron Gunn. Aaron, great to see you again. And I wish there were more people who believed in freedom in the creative arts, because the whole industry depends on freedom. Hollywood depends on freedom. Artistic liberty depends on freedom. Too many people in that industry forget it, but you're out there fighting the good fight. What would you say motivates you? And then we're going to get into the movie in a second, but why are you a creative guy when so many on our side of the aisle are not?
Well, let me first say thank you for having me, Ezra, and I wish there were more conservatives and common sense people in the media as well. So thank you for the work that you're doing. But I think what motivates me is, as someone who's forced to consume so much liberal content because it's so ubiquitous and out there, that no one's telling, in a lot of cases, in depth in these kind of documentary fashions, the other side of the story, which obviously you do a lot of at Rebel News. And growing up on the west coast or the left coast of Canada here in British Columbia, for the past 20 years, I've growing up in seeing the results right in front of me of these failed harm reduction policies, or so-called harm reduction policies, and I've watched homelessness, drug addiction, and violent crime get worse and worse and worse. And I wanted to know, why is this happening? And we looked at it first in Vancouver is Dying, and then after I made Vancouver is Dying and it blew up, I heard from people across the country, especially across BC, but also across the country, saying, you have to come to my city because it's happening here in Kelowna, or it's happening here in Lethbridge, or it's happening here in London. And so we came out to try travel across the country and figure out, hold on a second, this isn't just a Vancouver problem. What is happening in Canada? So that's what motivated me to make this specific project.
Well, I'm so glad you did. And what's the view count? How long has it been online now? And how many people have watched it so far?
Well, the two main places it's posted are Facebook and YouTube. You can also find it on Rumble, but it's been up for about 6 days, and combined, it's got about 800,000 views right now.
That's incredible. I want to tell you by reference, the CBC's flagship news show called CBC The National often is in the 200,000 to 300,000 views space. So you are just blasting it. That is enormous, and I congratulate it for you. Hey, just for folks who haven't watched it yet, I want to really get them excited about this. I want to show them the quality. I mean, this is Netflix quality. This is theatrical quality, and we're very proud of you. And we're trying to get into the documentary space a little bit, so I know how hard it is. And you're a tough act to follow. I want to show people some of the heartrending and very compelling things. Let me ask you to choose, of all the things that, and you traveled the country, what was the biggest surprise that you came across? I mean, we all know that Canada's going in the wrong direction, but was there something out there that really startled even you?
Well, there's a couple things that startled me when making this documentary, unfortunately. Um, Especially, starting off with violent crime, some of the insane sentences and people that our justice system or so-called justice system have been letting out on bail. But the biggest surprise, if you made me choose just one, I would have to go toward the end of the documentary when we start talking about what's fueling all of this violent crime, the drug addiction crisis that is sweeping Canada, and this new so-called safe supply, where the federal government has started basically flooding our streets with opioids, unbeknownst to most Canadians. And we interviewed a pharmacist who didn't want to be recognized, didn't want to have her face shown, and she was telling us what was happening at the pharmacy that she was working at. And I'll get this clip, and she actually said that there were doctors where she would call down to the doctors who were writing these prescriptions, saying there are people coming in with these prescriptions of powerful, highly addictive opioids who walk out of the pharmacy every day. This is a daily prescription, and sell them right in front of the pharmacy. Someone comes and picks them up, and the person who your patient that you've prescribed this to isn't actually taking his medications. And the doctor said, "Well, I'll watch the clip, and you'll see what the doctor said."
Yeah, here, let's take a look.
It doesn't even sound real saying this, but like I have patients who the whole reason that they became addicted to opioids was because one time their doctor prescribed them OxyContin. They got hooked. So I have those people who are now getting this prescribed safe supply. They're selling to other people who are just going to end up in this same thing. Like it's just this circle.
During the huge ramp up of legally produced, clearly labeled, consistent quality prescription opioids, more Americans and Canadians died of those legally produced opioids than died in World War I and World War II combined. And that is very, very recent history. We got here from companies saying this same line of reasoning, don't be opioid phobic, we're going to prescribe these very generously, we'll give them out in the community in all kinds of ways at a much higher level than we ever have. And because they are FDA approved or approved by Health Canada, they're safe. And millions of people got addicted, hundreds of thousands of people died. And we still have people dying from those medications today, including, by the way, a number of the people who are dying from street fentanyl. If you follow back their story, they started on one of those, allegedly safe, opioid prescriptions.
I tell you, and of course, everyone knows that's going on. Of course, that's no secret. That was an excerpt from the Ezra Levant show. I'm Ezra Levant. Every weekday, I do a monologue about the topic of the day. Then I interview a fascinating guest either in studio or via Skype. And then I read your mail, whether it's fan mail or hate mail, which is sometimes even more interesting. This is on our premium service, though, called Rebel News Plus. Go to rebelnewsplus.com. It's $8 a month or less if you buy a whole year in advance. You get my show every weeknight, plus Sheila Gunn Reid's show every week. It's called The Gunn Show. It's pretty amazing. We rely on you because we do not take a dime from the government. In Canada, that makes us almost unique. So please help us out and help yourself to some great journalism at rebelnewsplus.com.